Welcome back to the channel. I'm joined once again by Dr. Mark Ball. Mark has referenced on a number of occasions recently that he's come across a relationship between the left hip and the club face. So today's video could be very helpful for players looking for more awareness and control of the club face through impact. Thanks again for joining me. It's always great to be able to collaborate with other coaches within my network, and Mark is, as I mentioned in the past, one of my key mentors from a movement standpoint, and I'm very active on his online academy. He shares a lot of great information there to help coaches to be able to help players more with the game. And something that stood out to me recently that Mark has shared within his community is a relationship between the lead hip and the club face. So I think that might be something that kind of spurs some thoughts there for players, because there's very much a lot of information given out about how to kind of turn through and how the lead hip may move in the golf swing. But let's look at how we can tie that into controlling the face better throughout the swing. So Mark, I'll let you kind of elaborate a little bit more and then look at how we can help some players deliver the club a bit better.
Thanks, Ian. It's always a pleasure to kind of spend time with you. So for sure, I use a very kind of playful definition. And in some ways, if the left hip or the lead hip was club face, how would you best position and move the pelvis to kind of best find impact? So in a very kind of playful way, if kind of lead hip was club face, for example, in a very playful way, how would you kind of best move and position that pelvis to best kind of find impact? So you look at, say, for example, very much the kind of history invariably leaves the answer. You look at, say, the most advanced players and often the most established performers, there's these threads that displays through most of what they do. For sure, there's always the exception, but typically you look at, say, how the pelvis moves and how they move to that lead hip is almost independent of, say, for example, coaching beliefs or movement history or their preferences, for example, how they move. So that you look at how that kind of lead hip moves, how the pelvis moves is a thread that runs through almost most of the best players. So that kind of very playful approach, if the lead hip was club face, how could you move, and could be in the very key word here, how could you move to position the pelvis to kind of best find impact?
So maybe just for the viewers here, just walk me through that. So if I'm a player and I've got my club here and I go out, I'm going to hit a couple of shots, I'm going to somewhat try and apply this kind of principle or philosophy, how would I kind of go about playing around with that? Is it simply just a case of like, okay, let's kind of stand over the ball and connect with, okay, where does my lead hip really need to be in space? Yeah.
I think you can be even more playful, and it's certainly more organic and more exploratory in that. So as an example for your viewers now, just come and take your start position in, please, and just kind of do what you normally do. So in the most kind of playful way, just as and when kind of take your start position, and then go to your top of your backswing and stop. And just kind of really show me how you typically would find impact from there. So really what your understanding is of finding impact, and just kind of play with it, explore it, and then kind of connect with kind of how that pelvis moves. Great. So just come back to that start position now. So now be more mindful of, if kind of lead hip was club face, how could you move the pelvis to best position it to find impact?
Definitely a little bit different.
In what way?
It felt from the top, obviously I'm just purely thinking of, okay, lead hip is going to, for me, guide the club face is what I was thinking there. Is that I felt as though it was getting more behind me sooner, it was getting more open sooner, and very much it feels like even my lead hip is almost behind my lead heel. So very much I felt as though I was going much more like backwards this way to get to impact there. So rather than, I would say normally, just not quite as much as I was feeling when I was doing the rehearsal.
And that's an approach you can take, a very playful, approach, to explore really what it means to you to move this way. So very much that kind of that way you can look at it. If the lead hip was club face, how could you move the pelvis to find impact? So it's not unusual. Players often say the pelvis glides more laterally, it elevates more, it rotates more, which is very much aligned with, say, for example, then some of the ground reaction force profiles of the kind of the side-to-side force, the rotational torques, and the elevation can often then connect into that. So again, if lead hip was club face, how could you move the pelvis to find impact?
I like the simplicity of that, how intuitive it can be for players, because I find that what's nice for players to go away and play with is when it's something that, it's a very clear kind of concept there. It's okay, the lead hip and the connection to the club face, and it's going to feel a little bit, it's very personal. for that player. It's not saying like, okay, well, the lead hip needs to be here, it should feel like this. It's more, here's a concept, go away with, play with it, and then see how the club responds after maybe you've worked on that a little while, trying to achieve that feeling that you get when you go through the rehearsal. So explore with that. Could be a great concept for you. I'd be happy, obviously, to respond as always to any questions with regards to the philosophy there. But thanks, Mark. I appreciate you sharing that. I think it's something that can be explored by a lot of players and maybe help them with the game.